Class is in session, hitting the books. College basketball show Wednesday, February the 12th. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack are back with you on this Wednesday. Let's jump right into it. We've got St. John's and Villanova to get the party started in the Big East. We've got St. John's 2 3-point favorites in some spots. Actually, it's down to 2 in most spots. 140 the total in this game. I actually took St. John's. I took them, even though they're coming off a big win, obviously, like they had over the weekend. Or actually, it was last Friday night at home against UConn. Yeah, it's a potential flat spot, but they're just playing too well. They really are. I mean, they're playing outstanding ball. Lewis has been phenomenal. Kadari Richmond and company playing at a very high level. This is about as good a team. I think the thing you have to give Rick Pitino a lot of credit for is the defensive improvement in St. John's from last year to this year. They are now a very good defensive team, and that is something we weren't able to say about the Red Storm prior to this season. I just don't flat out trust Villanova to beat a good team. I mean, I think this is still a mediocre team. I know the spot handicappers and the spot bettors are going to line up and take Villanova here as a home underdog, but I can't get on board. This is like Alabama, Texas all over again to me, where I know Texas, it's a good spot, but I just think like last night, Alabama was the better team, laying a cheap price. I kind of feel that way about St. John's here. So for me anyway, it's St. John's or pass. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I just can't take Nova here. St. John's just has a better defense. At some point, I've talked about it. It's going to happen. Maybe it'll just hasn't happened. Yeah, the free throws, and there'll be a game, that they'll lose. They've just been so good on the road. They take care of the ball. And another thing, that they're not very deep too. I mean, I think that'll catch up with them down the stretch for St. John's. But right now, I don't want to go against them. Not at all. Nova, it's all Dixon. Yep. For them, we know that. The nation leading scorer. So Poplar, he had a big game the last game, but those are kind of been spotty. And they're not a team that's deep. So it's the spot. I agree. This line's moved up, but it feels like if you like St. John's for the most part, their defense is great, and they'll shut down Villanova and under, but, it's moved up here a little bit.
All right, next up as we continue along here, no game graphics today. Apologies, guys. Iowa-Rutgers next up. We've got Rutgers 5-point home favorites, 161 the total in this game. This is another one, too, where it's difficult to back Iowa personally. So it's a Rutgers spot or nothing for me. Now, I don't love the idea of laying 5.5 with the Scarlet Knights, but I'm just not interested in Iowa. You got to start playing some goddamn defense before I'm going to start taking this Iowa Hawkeyes team. And it just continues to be the same old sad song with them. They just don't guard. They just don't contest shots the way they should, the way a good basketball team should.
And box out.
Yeah, they don't
get after balls.
Yeah, they're soft and they don't play defense. That does not travel well. And I know Rutgers has taken a step back this year, and their home court dominance at the rack has not been there this year to the extent of previous seasons. But I ain't taking Iowa. It's Rutgers or pass here. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, and some of that with Rutgers is, though, their defense isn't the same as maybe the last 4 or 5 years, especially at least early on. And even the games kind of lately they get in, of course, they have the couple great scores that they have, Bailey and Harper. But I kind of think it's Rutgers. Iowa, I just go back to these road games. They're just beat downs. You know what I mean? Like, they're just ass whippings by 15, 24, 10, 35. And maybe they wake up, but I can't take them at all. You're right. No way, no how. Pass.
Don't blame me at all. And even for me, I lean over. It's just a very high total for a Rutgers game.
Yeah.
160s, but it's probably got a right to be there. Ole Miss and South Carolina. We've got Ole Miss 4.5-point road favorites, 138.5 the total. I swear, this game's like the same theme of the last two, where, especially the first game. This is like St. John's Villanova all over again. I lean road favorite. I just think Ole Miss is a better basketball team than South Carolina. The only concern here is we've seen Ole Miss throw up a couple clunkers away from Oxford, this season in SEC play. So that would be a little bit of a concern for me. They lost at Missouri, lost at Mississippi State. They escaped LSU, didn't play that great, failed to cover, and really they failed to cover a lot lately. 1-5 ATS their last 6 games. But how do you trust South Carolina? I mean, they've lost 10 in a row. Are they going to win another game in SEC play? I'm not so sure about that. At home, they've been, I guess, a little bit more competitive. When you look at the loss to Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State, and A&M, they were all pretty close games. Maybe this is close again, but when it comes down to winning time, Lamont Paris's team has not had it. So I'm looking at Ole Miss or nothing here. I don't think the number's in a good spot. I'm not running to lay it with Ole Miss, but if you ask me what I prefer laying it with Ole Miss than taking it with South Carolina. CMAC, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe this is get a good effort from South Carolina at home. One thing, they're not backable. They can't win. I know, like the losses at home, but they haven't won at home. There's been tight games.
Yep.
So just 4.5 is not enough, flat out. I like the under, of course, with South Carolina. But when I go through Ole Miss, the defense is solid, but, their totals are normally in the high 140s, 150s. They haven't had many. They did the Georgia game was a lower total that did go under. So that kind of leans me to the under here when I was going through it. But, it was a pass. Under nothing.
All right. I agree with that. All right. Next up here as we continue along, we've got, let me just see. Oh, here we go. Louisville, NC State, ACC action. We've got Louisville in this one laying the points here, 7.5, 144.5 the total. It's another one where I think you can make a case to lay it with the road favorite. I like my home underdogs. I've been on a bunch of home dog spots on this show, especially throughout conference play. I just think there's a huge gap right now, Louisville versus NC State. I just do. I don't think there's a very good NC State team. Kevin Keats is a good coach. He just doesn't have the horses in the barn, if you will. Not on this group, and not anything close to the team that made the crazy run last year. They go on the West Coast, and they get beaten down in both games, double-digit loss to Cal. Actually, they were right in it against Stanford, but they lose a heartbreaker. They're coming back all the way from the West Coast for this game. Not a good scheduling spot necessarily. Louisville, they had the one loss, the one hiccup at Georgia Tech. They bounced back. They blew the doors off Boston College 84-58, and then they beat Miami in their last game by double digits. I think they can win this game 8-10, maybe even more than that. So it's Louisville minus a small bet for me here on Louisville. I like this game maybe over a little bit as well. I know NC State's a little spotty when it comes to offense is concerned, but Louisville is certainly a scoring machine, and I don't know if NC State's got it in them to slow them down. If you look at last year, these two teams, the two games got into the 170s as far as total points. So I think asking them to get into the mid 140s here in this game is not asking too much. So I do like the over here as well. CMAC, what do you think? Louisville, NC State.
Yeah, NC State coming after that trip, back-to-back losses on the West Coast. Can they get a better effort? It just hasn't happened. This is another team that at home hasn't flat out won all year long. You know what I mean? Some of the games have been close. That one with Texas here, they did beat Notre Dame. They lost to Cal, SMU, Clemson. They're super slow now. I like the other side on the total here, the under. They're just a totally different team. Now they have scored a little bit more with Louisville. Have you heard news on Hepburn?
I've not. No update. Just game
wasn't going to play. Yeah. I just heard it was game time, and most likely not. But yeah, I can't take NC State. I kind of like Louisville here, but I went with the under. We will see. NC State just did go over, but if they want to be in this game, they have to. Which I don't know how all of a sudden they'll run up and down, but they need to play at their 3:30 pace or whatever they're at. And try to just slow this down and make this kind of a tight game at home. So
I agree. So we'll see if, from an NC State standpoint, the question is, are they going to keep Louisville from scoring? That's the question.
Yeah, can they?
Well, no doubt. All right, Florida State and Wake Forest as we stay in the ACC next up. Wake Forest, 7-point favorites, 143 the total in this game. This is another over for me. I like it. I think definitely we'll see points here. Florida State, Leonard Hamilton stepping down. This is kind of like with Woodson, Mike Woodson at Indiana. He's going to step down at the end of the season. So what we get for the team the rest of the year remains to be seen. I saw a pretty good effort from them beating Notre Dame at home, 67-60 in their last game. What I've noticed from Wake Forest and why I like the over is this team was better, I thought, offensively, personnel-wise, than they showed early in conference play, and they're starting to finally play that way. More efficiency. They've gotten into the high 70s in 3 straight games, all of them victories. I think they can do that here. They're coming off the Cal-Stanford road trip as well, just like we talked about with NC State. So I don't know if I want to lay the 7, and you're always looking for signs when a team knows their coach is leaving at the end of the season. Are they still going to play hard and give you a great effort? They did do that, Florida State against Notre Dame. Problem is, it's going to be a little tougher probably on the road here against Wake Forest. Totally neutral on the side. I think Wake wins the game. I just don't want to lay 7 coming off the West Coast. I like the over. C-Mac, what do you think?
Well, you got to like at least Wake the way they've been scoring the ball, especially even on the trip out west, because I still don't want their overs. Not really. But, 3 straight. They've gone over. I think they found out they just pound the ball inside, because they just don't have the shooters at all. Get to the line too, and that's kind of what they've done the last 3 games, because they're still just awful. They're shooting everything, and the shot chart is just really, really bad. And they're a decent team that gets to the line, and all right there too, 75%. And I just don't know what to make of Florida State. I kind of lean them with the points. Wake's here at home. Yeah, maybe it seems like they win, don't cover. They've just been tough to figure out all year. You know what I mean? I just not a team I want to back. So I'm off.
All right, next up as we continue along here on this Wednesday slate, we've got Xavier and Providence. Pretty good one here in the Big East. Xavier 2.5-point road favorites, 146.5 the total. Year after year after year, I would tell you that if you gave me this exact line, this exact point spread, with Providence against Xavier, Providence was a 2.5-point home underdog. I would be 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10 betting Providence. I'm not betting Providence here. In fact, I took Xavier money line here. Here's why. I like Xavier coming off a loss, right? They finally lost their last game. This is a team that's been playing pretty well. And I just haven't seen Providence step up against the best teams in this Big East Conference and get it done. That's probably been the biggest concern that I've got right now with this Providence Friars team. Not quite convinced that they're as good as they've been in years past. There's times they go into massive offensive droughts as well, which is a big-time concern for me. So Xavier is what I looked at here. Cheap enough on the money line where I like taking the better team off a loss, and I think, to me, that is Xavier. So I did take Xavier, just money line, asking them to win the game. This one I lean under. I think points might be hard to come by in this game. C-Mac, what do you think?
I don't know if they're maybe hard to come by. I actually thought the total yet was a little high. That's all. I don't know. I think there could be some scoring in this game. Providence has gone over. I don't know what, 6 of 7. And Xavier's gone over. I think their last 4. And they shouldn't have gone over against St. John's. So it's been a minute. Both these teams have kind of gone over, but I don't know. I thought it was just a little bit too high. Providence can't finish games. They don't have the players this year. Late, they've been pretty good early. And they shot the ball even that when they covered against Butler was it Saturday? I mean, they shot lights out from 3. They still lose by 1. They covered that game. But it was the Creighton last week where I had them. They're in that game and just got worn down. There's turnovers. They're just not deep enough. And look, they lose by 11 in the end. Because, to me, this is like Providence here at home. I'd love to take it, but I can't do it. So, they could win big here today. Xavier's been a little bit of a team better on the road. I know the record's only 2-7, but they've been competitive in games.
Yes.
So that's the only reason I just don't want them to. So it's an off for me.
All right, next up, we've got Washington and Ohio State. Ohio State here laying double digits at home in Columbus. Looks like 10.5 is what we're looking at here with Ohio State in this game, and the total sitting at 11 actually in most spots. 144.5 the total in this game. Ohio State, certainly they have turned things around, and Diebler, the head coach, after some rough times earlier in conference play, they've won 4 of their last 6 games. some decent wins in there as well. We'll see if they can keep it rolling. They are off a loss at Nebraska, 79-71 over the weekend. Now back home here at Ohio State, where they have the 9-4 record. They've won and covered 2 straight here at home. Washington, Washington's actually covered 4 of the last 5. At Minnesota, they won outright as a dog. At Oregon, they covered the number in defeat, lost by 11, but covered the number. They did have some ugly blowout losses, big blowout losses to Michigan and Michigan State back-to-back. Are we starting to get carried away with Ohio State's recent resurgence? Because I sure as hell ain't comfortable laying 11 with the Buckeyes. The question is, do you want to take Washington, and do you trust Washington? This might be hold your nose, take the Huskies at this number, because I think the value is in their direction. Lean under. I don't know. This total for these two teams seems a little bit high. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen just a little bit more help, and they've had better games like Harris and Mason for Washington. They'll need that on the road, where it's like these last few have not been too bad. Nightmares of where they just got drilled at Michigan State, because I think this is too many points. It's just the situation isn't great after beating Northwestern at home, covering that number. I lean their way. There's just no way I could take Ohio State. I think the better team, but I don't want to lay points for them. So lean the Huskies here.
All right, LSU, Arkansas. We've got Arkansas laying, 9.5 in this game. 146.5 is the total with LSU and Arkansas. Arkansas, like I've said now for a few times now, finally offensively, it started with that win against Kentucky in John Calipari's return to Rupp Arena. Now, suddenly the offense is starting to hum a little bit for the Razorbacks, and it's certainly been a good thing. They've covered 3 straight, but now we're asking Arkansas to lay 9.5. The biggest favorite they've been in conference play was 3.5 against Ole Miss. They lost outright. 3.5 at home against Oklahoma. They lost outright. So they've been favored twice in SEC play, and only by 3.5, and they lost both games outright. How the hell do you trust them laying 9.5? I know they're playing a little bit better now, and I know LSU stinks on the road. Like, it is difficult to trust LSU away from Baton Rouge, because they have been just incredibly horrific on the road. So it's a tough side. You can't lay it with 9.5. You can't lay 9.5 with Arkansas. At least I can't. And I don't really know if I want to back LSU on the road, getting any amount of points with how bad they've been. I think the over might be the play. LSU's been trending over. Arkansas shooting a little bit better. 146. I think it just might get up and over that number. What do you think here, C-Mac?
If that happens, I think that means LSU covers. Yeah. That's the lean for me. Like, all day I've been just trying to go through this game, looking at everything. No, because I want LSU. They're just dreadful on the road, like you talked about.
But the flip to that is Arkansas has been favored twice and only twice in SEC play, and they lost both of those games. They were favored twice outright, and now we're laying.
I think. How much do you think, if they really playing, better? I just think they've had some. I think they are, but they just shot the ball crazy good the last 4 or 5 games in that stretch. Once they beat Kentucky, I know they lost and blew that game to Ole Miss. Did LSU, but can they build off that a little bit? So I'm leaning LSU. This is one I haven't bet, but I'm closer.
All right, Oklahoma and Missouri. We've got Missouri 9.5 point home favorites, and the total here at 151.5 in this game. I mean, Oklahoma, Tennessee and Auburn are pretty good. I will say that. But, I mean, come on. Lose by 28 at Auburn. Lose by 18 on your home floor to Tennessee. I mean, that's just horrific here for Oklahoma. And now they've got a Missouri team that lost a heartbreaker at Tennessee, where they played really well and only lost by 4 on the road at Tennessee. It's still a pretty good result. And then they lost a tough one at home to Texas A&M in their last game. It's a second straight home game. This is a team that at home before that, they destroyed LSU, destroyed Arkansas, won and covered against Ole Miss. Feels like a Missouri spot all the way to me. And I'll tell you what, I saw Oklahoma's last 2 games quite a bit, especially that Tennessee game early on Saturday. They shoot like that and they defend like that. Missouri will win by double digits tonight. I really do think so. So I'm going to lay it here. Lay it or don't play it, at least for me. I'm on Missouri. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, Oklahoma has just been dog shit on the road for the most part. I think they gotta have a better day shooting it though. I mean, there was a stretch there. They didn't hit a shot for like 6 minutes there against Tennessee. And we know Tennessee's defense, how good they are. But Moore and Fears just, I mean, that's most of their team. They have to be way better. I think they can. And I think this Missouri, we talked about just kind of the bad matchup a little bit for A&M. I think this could be a better matchup for Oklahoma, but can they bring it here on the road? I don't know. I was looking at this game. I thought it was just a little maybe high. I like this over, though. I just maybe Oklahoma has a better shooting night. And Missouri, who this is a team, when they're going well, Pavano should score in the 80s right there. I mean, we've seen it for the most part, especially at home. So it just seems a tad, just in case Oklahoma has another stinker, let's say, and it's like, I don't know, 82, 60, whatever, and it just stays under this number. But I kind of lean over. I think there could be enough scoring in this game between the two.
Missouri
These teams get to the free throw line. Yeah, they'll push base, both get to the line, and both are pretty good from the free throw line if they can, get there. Missouri a little bit better, I think. They get to the line a little bit more. Pretty high, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, third in the country.
They're a high rate of free throw shooting team. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Free throw attempt, they're up there. Yeah, as far as top 20 in the country. So that tells you all you need to know. They draw fouls, and obviously draw fouls, and you shoot a lot of free throws, and you score points with the clock stopped. Obviously, that's good news if you're betting the over in these games, no question. All right, Arizona State and Texas Tech. We got the Red Raiders, 16-point home favorites, 145 the total in this game. Huge number here with Texas Tech coming off a 82-73 loss on the road to Arizona. That was a very good basketball game. They might have the team they need to beat down because I took Oklahoma. I couldn't believe Oklahoma State was only laying that short number at home against Arizona State. Arizona State on the road is starting to kind of crumble a little bit of late, just crumble in general. Arizona State lost by 9 against Arizona. They lost to Kansas State. They trailed most of that game. They get blown out by Oklahoma State. We'll see if Texas Tech's got it in them to win by this kind of margin. The one thing I would say is that, they won. They were 11.5-point favorites against TCU. They won by 14. They were 18-point favorites against Oklahoma State. They only won by 10. The Red Raiders aren't that type of team I'm comfortable with in this range, but I'm not sure I want any part of Arizona State right now either. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I really don't want any part of this. Texas Tech blowout, Prairie View, or all these shitty teams.
Yep.
Alabama A&M, Houston Baptist. You know what they did? I had TCU 13. Of course, they beat them by 14. That was a couple of weeks ago. That had me. Should have covered that number, but TCU team that couldn't hit a shot saved their life in that game. I think it's a good bounce back for them after losing to Arizona. Yeah, it's just a shit ton. So, yeah, I'm off here. Arizona State's just they're just going kind of in trouble mode. You know what I mean? I can't back them here.
All right, we've got Cal and Duke next up here. California making the road trip here to Cameron Indoor. We've got Duke, 23-point home favorites, 144 the total in this game. So Duke's off the loss at Clemson. So the fear here is Duke off the loss. They're fully focused on this Cal team. And obviously Duke's got the talent, significant talent advantage to win this game in blowout fashion. And, win this game by the 25 they won against Boston College or the 35 that they won against Miami. I happen to think, though, that Cal is a little bit better than Boston College and certainly better than Miami. And I still think Duke's way overvalued from a point spread standpoint. The only concern I would have is they are off the loss at Clemson, and maybe they just crush this team from start to finish and they don't take their foot off the gas pedal because their next game after this, they host Stanford at home. So there's really no look-ahead spot for Duke after this. But you start to look at Cal recently. They're 4-3 in their last 7. The losses were by 11 at SMU, by 9 versus Syracuse, by 10 versus Wake. Like, they're not getting annihilated in these games. I actually did take Cal here, plus 20. That's just, to me, I'll dare Duke to win by this kind of a margin. Even I know they're off the loss to Clemson, so maybe they do, and they certainly own significant advantage. I don't know who the hell is going to guard Cooper Flagg here for
Nobody.
Cal tonight. I don't think so, because the thing they lack is rim protection in the paint, so that's a problem. But boy, oh boy, I still think from now until the end of the regular season, you're not going to make much money betting on Duke, because of their just sky high power ratings. So I am going to take a shot here with the Golden Bears at this number. C-Mac, Cal versus Duke.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with this fucking game. Duke's blowing a bunch of people out. I know, like, I had NC State, the rivalry where they covered, those at 22 and lost by 10. And we've seen some, like I said, just a few beatdowns here, like 25-30, and there's been a couple where they just won by 10, 15. I think if you look to, if that's what happens with Duke again, this goes under. Cal just can't get anything here, and should be probably like maybe get to the 60s. So still at 145, 144 and a half, I think it could stay under here. Duke's defense, that's smothering at home right now.
It is. I mean, I know what I'm getting into here, because Duke is good enough to win by 25, 28 points here and cover the number. But, man.
Hey, you're getting a boatload.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
You're not getting value with Duke to me, and so I'm taking a shot against them one more time. And I really liked Clemson. I said Clemson's going to give them a game. Enough of this Duke beating the hell out of everybody. Clemson is good enough to give them a game, and they did more than that. They won, obviously, at Little John Coliseum on Saturday. All right, final game of our game-by-game previews for this Wednesday college basketball card, Wyoming and New Mexico. We've got New Mexico at the Pit in Albuquerque, 15.5-point home favorites. The total here, 142.5 in this game. This one feels like it's just a few too many as well for Wyoming, because New Mexico's coming in here. Okay, they're rolling. They have covered back-to-back home games, or back-to-back games against Colorado State here at home. They won by 22. They beat Air Force by 35. Not easy to step in front of them. Wyoming is one of those teams that lately their losses have been competitive. Even the UNLV game, that game kind of got away late. They still only lost by 11, lose by 4 at home to a very good Utah State team. They took San Diego State down to the wire at Viejas Arena, only lost by 2. I don't know, in this spot for New Mexico, and a factor in that you got a huge showdown, Utah State coming in on the weekend to the Pit. It just feels like this is a spot for Wyoming to lose by 10, lose by 8, not necessarily lose by 16. I think Wyoming can hang in this big number. C-Mac, what do you think here? Wyoming, New Mexico.
Yeah, I looked at Wyoming. You're right with maybe the big game that they have above, especially after some real ass kickings. Whether it's Utah State, Colorado State at home, and then just at Air Force. And man, Air Force, they even got beat down by UNLV. Glad I stayed off that. But at the Pit, they could just roll them here. I can't back either of these teams. I want Wyoming. Can they get it? Just sometimes with that arena, you get up by 20, it's over quick. Can they make enough shots? All of a sudden, this Wyoming team struggled. Watching that UNLV game, man, it was tough. Man, so I mean, if they don't get to the 60, and that's what I always talk about with New Mexico. Now their defense is awful, but I think it can be had if you hit shots and get inside and hit some big threes. So Wyoming can kind of do that. You're right; they definitely could stay within the number.
All right, there you have it. Those are the game-by-game previews, which means it's time to talk about the games we have not yet discussed that we both like from a betting perspective here on this Wednesday of college basketball. C-Mac, any of the games we have not discussed, not talked about that you're liking here tonight?
Yeah, we talked about Kenny. Ben likes the over. I like the under in that game, Louisville, NC State. And you like Louisville, right?
I am laying it with Louisville on the road, yeah.
He's laying it with Louisville. So we hit that. If you want to go back, we hit it in the beginning. But we'll touch on the Purdue-Fort Wayne. I think that game could be good. I like Youngstown. I didn't play that, Vano. Man, but I want to take them. There's a few good games there tonight. Do you have anything, Youngstown, real quick?
I have the over there. It's a tough side with IPF dub and Youngstown too. I lean Youngstown a little bit, but boy, they're a really good team. IPFW. The few times I've gone against IPFW,
Oh yeah, they've been great ATS.
They've been really, really. So I'm not rushing. Here's one. I'll throw out. One of these. It's a rivalry in upstate Western New York, and they've played a little bit spunky, more competitive lately. And I know there've been some decent performances lately from Niagara, but now we're talking them laying 8.5. I think Canisius plus 8.5 is the way to go there. Rivalry game in the upstate New York there.
Hey, they shoot the three pretty good. See if they can get it done. I'm on George Washington. VCU is, of course, the better team, better defensively. But I think this game might not be easy, that they go in there and win. But it's tight. So George Washington.
They're blowing out everybody. Isn't at some point VCU going to just have one of these games where they just kind of don't play as well? And they're coming off that huge win at Dayton last Friday night.
Huge win. George, one place I want him is at home. So, I think I had to grab him here at 9. I just had to take him. That's about it. I like Robert Morris, which I also bet.
Oh, a little Bobby Moe.
+5. Okay. Yeah. Well, Cleveland State's really owned them. A lot of those games, though, have been tight over the years, but this is a lot better. Robert Morris team. I think this game is just tight. Nothing really is a difference between these teams. I think they already lost to them at home, I believe. Cleveland State beat them, so a little bit of revenge. So I think that game there is tight. And that's about all I had, I'm pretty sure.
All right, we'll go rapid fire. Yeah, no problem. Nope, that's good. We'll go rapid. The totals moved a lot, but I'm on Oakland, IU, Indianapolis over. It's gone up a lot. So, but I agree with it. I think that game goes over. That they're starting to have real issues defensively again. IU, PU. PU stands for PU, as in their defense is PU. IU, PUI. That's the way it's been in some of their recent games. So I like the over there in that one. I like Rhode Island a little bit. Money line, just asking them to win at home against St. Bonaventure. Bonnies are playing a little bit better, but still on the road, have some issues at times. I like UMass at home, too. I'm still not a fan of Davidson, and even less a fan of Davidson away from home. So I like UMass there in that game. Took a lot of points with LaSalle, Fran Dunphy, plus 12.5. St. Joe's is kind of flighty. We're going to trust St. Joe's now to lay double digits. So, I definitely think LaSalle, just a few too many points there. Fordham, I'm taking the Rams here, plus 8 against Dayton. Since this interim coach took over for Fordham, they fired their coach in season. It's an interim coach now for them. They've been playing their ass off for this interim coach. They've been becoming a little point spread juggernaut here, the Rams. I know I'm going up against the Dayton team coming off that home loss to VCU, but I thought plus 8, taking Fordham was worth a look there. Who I'm going to take again? VMI. Because they have been a point spread machine for me. Plus 10 against Greensboro. All they've done is cover numbers. They've been competitive. I know Greensboro is one of the best teams here in the SoCon, but I think VMI getting 10 is worth a look there against Greensboro. I think Georgia Tech actually could beat Stanford. I don't love it, but I'm telling you what, Stanford going on the road, Georgia Tech. Remember, Georgia Tech just beat Louisville at home, recently. That means I think at Pick'em they might be able to. And they have been playing a little bit better, the Yellow Jackets here, the last few
I was
games.
waiting on McCollum in that game. I haven't checked in the last hour or two, but it'd be good if he was in. But yeah, I like it kind of too. After 5 great games, they get kind of their ass kicked this weekend. And it's gone against them. They love Stanford in that game. It's just down to a pick'em there. So yeah, Fordham I think is interesting. I'd like to take them too because I've been on them 2 or 3 times in this 6-game straight where they've covered the number. So one last one before I hit it. You might hit it. I think it's just a great game. They're off a loss. I'd sure like to be kind of on Chattanooga here because I haven't bet it, so I'm not going to.
I like Chattanooga. They lost it to Samford earlier in the season. Revenge spot. Now they're catching points at Samford in the rematch. I think the Mocs are the way to go. I agree. I like the over there too.
Plenty of great basketball right now. And Samford usually rules this, and they're at home. But I think the 5.5 there with Chattanooga, I think you grab a piece of that.
No doubt. UTSA meet Roadrunners +7. I think worth a look. Wichita's playing better, but now laying 7. I'm not there yet with Wichita. They're starting to play a little bit better. I took them against South Florida on the weekend, but now laying 7. I'm not there with the Shockers laying that many points. So like UTSA,
I lean over. It was a little high.
Yeah,
just a little bit, but yeah, I like the over there.
Over to me in that game's good. I'm taking Scott Nagy's team as well. Southern Illinois. I like this. They lost at home to Bradley. Now they're going on the road in a revenge spot against Bradley. And Bradley's been awful laying these bigger numbers lately. They just have. They haven't been covering numbers, Bradley, of late. So I think the Salukis, Southern Illinois, +8.5. I do like them in that spot. Evansville, Missouri State, total a little light there. I could get it. Evansville's been cashing a lot of overs lately. Evansville. So I think 132 is a little low. Belmont, I like another Belmont over. This team just keeps going over the total. I know it's in the 160s here, but Valpo stinks defensively. So Belmont and Valpo should be really, really high scoring. So over the total there, I like. Someone had mentioned Arkansas State there, our guy Daryl. I have not laid double digits in the Sun Belt very often, but when I have, it hasn't gone well. There's no chance I bet Southern Miss. They're not there, especially on the road. This could be an evisceration for the Red Wolves, but the times CMAC when I've laid double digits in the Sun Belt hasn't gone well. So to me, 15.5, Arkansas State's just a little bit too high there. So it's a pass for me on that game. Yeah, I think that's it. The over, I lean there too, and I think that's it. Drake, Illinois State's a great game. I got a sneaking suspicion Drake wins on the road. I know Illinois State's getting some love there, but Drake is capable of going on the road, winning those big games. I just get the feeling Drake might get it done. Then on the added board, I'll throw out Asheville Carolina, South Carolina, upstate +10 and over 162 in that game. Should be a lot of points. UNC Asheville with South Carolina upstate. That's a pretty good basketball game tonight. So is Radford Winthrop. I actually lean Radford there a little bit, +3.5 against Winthrop, but that's a good game too.
Yeah, I think those points with Southern Miss, I think you got to grab them. As good as Arkansas State is, it's a shit ton. Yeah.
And all I can say is, exactly what I said earlier, is that double-digit favorites have not done well, at least for me in the Sun Belt when I've taken them. So there you have it. All right, let's get to best bets to wrap up the show. CMAC, what do you got for us for our Wednesday night for best bet?
It's going to go with the total, but I'll go with the side here. We should have won last night, by the way. It's fucking bullshit, but it's college basketball. How about George Washington? We'll give it out. I just gave it +9. I think they keep the game close. Big bad VCU. Nobody wants George Washington here. George fucking Washington +9.
There you go. George Washington, the Colonials, +9.5 against VCU for Connor Mack and his best bet. My best bet, I'm going to go to one that I haven't mentioned yet, and I purposely did not mention it on just now because I saved it for best bet. We're going to go to Philly, Tulsa Temple. Temple's been playing good, but now we're asking them to lay 7.5. And Tulsa, for as bad as things have been, they've covered some numbers on the road. Memphis just recently. And I just think we've gotten to a point now with Temple where, because they've had a little bit of a resurgence here, we're now asking them to be in a favorites range that I don't think they're equipped to handle. So I'm going to take Tulsa here. The Golden Hurricane, +7. Actually, +7.5 is still available at Caesars. So +7.5 with Tulsa against Temple to keep that game competitive. That's another game, too, the over, I think, can get there as well. I like points in that game. But I'm going to go with Tulsa +7.5 against Temple for my best bet for this Wednesday. Shout out to everyone in the chat. We appreciate it very much. Let's do a quick roll call before we wrap it up. Old E, Timothy Hay, Kenny Woo Woo Woo, Gold Jew, Degeneracy. I like that handle. Very good. The Chillest, Nick Elvento, Mark's Reviews 2.0, Kane's Nation, Daryl Benton, Professor NF. We appreciate all of you joining us here on this edition of the College Basketball Hitting the Book Show. We're off tomorrow. We don't do the show on Thursday because it's mostly a lighter, smaller conference type of day, but we're back on Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, with the usual Friday and Saturday college basketball preview. So we're definitely looking forward to that. We'll see you in a couple of days here on Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for joining us. And again, we're back Friday. Looking forward to it. Hope everyone has a great night and cashes some tickets. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll be back with you on Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific for another edition of the College Basketball Hitting the Books show. Until then, class dismissed.